moment you sense a slight distortion in the air, a breath that pauses half a second longer than usual, a small point in your awareness shifting color in a way you cannot explain. It is not the fleeting sensation of a tired mind. It is the first sign of a door opening from within your own field. It makes no sound and offers no dramatic signal. It appears as stillness touching the deepest part of you, where intuition recognizes the message before the mind can name it. The first thing that changes is not the world, but the way you touch it. Familiar things suddenly feel half a step further away. Small details carry a weight you never noticed before. You do not try to analyze it, yet the precision of the field sharpens every sensation as if someone has adjusted the brightness and tone of your entire reality. This disruption does not come to warn you, it comes to confirm that you have stepped out of your old orbit without realizing when you drifted away. You do not look very different from the outside, but inside, your frequency has shifted enough to create a subtle fracture separating who you were yesterday from who you are in this moment. The shift is so light that no one else will ever see it, yet so strong that you cannot pretend it is not real. This is how the field works. Silent, precise, without seeking attention. It does not perform, it does not persuade you, it simply opens the door when you are ready. If in recent days you have found yourself going quiet in the middle of a crowd, seeing everything more clearly without effort, or sensing a thin layer between you and your surroundings, as if you are viewing life through a deeper dimension, it is not detachment. It is your perceptual resolution upgrading. When the field opens a new layer, your awareness adjusts before your mind understands what happened. You begin to notice things that have existed for a long time but were hidden beneath unconscious loops. The light in a familiar room suddenly feels warmer. A simple conversation carries signals you never caught before. Thoughts that once felt old appear with an entirely new shade. The world is not changing. Your frequency is being lifted by the field to match a higher layer of operation. This moment marks the end of the phase where you were still pulled by old habits, old reactions, old patterns that were once correct but no longer aligned. You no longer feel comfortable in familiar noise. Things you once considered important become strangely weightless. Things you once overlooked become impossible to ignore. This is not boredom or loss of motivation. This is the intersection between two frequencies. One old layer fading, one new layer emerging, and you stand exactly at the boundary, feeling everything without knowing you have already stepped into a completely different state. This quiet disruption is the signal the field uses to awaken your being before you consciously realize who you are becoming. It does not try to teach you anything. It tries to remind you of what you knew before this life began. When you feel everything becoming slightly off, it is not disorder. It is the marker showing that your old structure can no longer contain your new frequency. You are not being pulled into this journey. You are being led to it through the natural harmony between you and the next vibrational layer. A moment like this never appears by accident. It is always the result of hundreds of small choices you have made, guided by intuition, guided by instinct, guided by a nameless sense of direction. Every time you chose calm over reaction, truth over comfort, depth over distraction, the field recorded it. Not to judge you, but to determine the moment the door could open without pulling you backward into the old layer. The moment you sense this disruption is the moment your frequency has reached the necessary stability. The most important thing you need to understand is that you are not imagining it. You are not overly sensitive. You are recognizing a shift in the subtle structure of awareness. The fact that others do not notice it does not make it less real. The field always opens its doors in silence because silence is where consciousness is clearest. No one sees that door except you because it does not open toward the external world. It opens inward into the inner space where your true self has been waiting for you to return. The moment the field opens the door is not a promise of something grand arriving. It is a reminder that the grandness has already begun within you. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to prove you are worthy of it. You only need to recognize that the stillness surrounding you is the clearest sign that you have entered a new phase. When silence becomes heavy with meaning, when the slight misalignment becomes significant, you have entered the most protected space within the field, where your higher versions begin to converge. The disruption you feel is the door, and the fact that you are still here means you have already walked through it. Have you ever wondered why the most difficult phases of your life never arrive with clear explanations, and why the quietest tests always seem to appear at the exact moment when you are most tired, most scattered, or slipping into a dark corner where no one can see your eyes? If you have ever felt that way, pause for a moment and let me ask you something important. In the moment you are reading these lines, are you brave enough to acknowledge to yourself that you have already passed those tests, even though you did not know they were milestones marking the maturation of your inner frequency? If the answer is yes, leave a brief comment saying I am ready, or even just the number 1, so I can see that you are truly present, not running, not avoiding, but stepping out of the long shadow you have lived in. Not for me to see you, but for you to see yourself. The silent exam of the field has never resembled any test you have taken before. There are no instructions, no proctor, no questions written on paper, and no one tells you that you are being tested. Everything unfolds in the smallest moments so subtle that even you do not realize you have just answered an important question. When you choose calm instead of reacting, you have answered. When you choose integrity instead of engaging in chaos, you have answered. When you choose silence instead of proving you are right, you have answered. When you choose to leave gently instead of holding on to what is no longer meant for you, you have answered. You receive no warning. You receive no preparation. And precisely because of that, your answers carry absolute value, because they come from the truest part of you. What most people do not understand is that the field does not measure your capacity by the moments you shine. It measures by the moments no one sees you, by the choices you make in solitude, by the silences you hold to avoid hurting someone, by the honesty you preserve even when there is no audience. These small things that seem insignificant are the strongest signals the field records. It does not care how successful you have been, it cares what you manage to hold on to in moments of failure. It does not ask how many times you have won, it asks how many times you kept your frequency steady when everything tried to pull you down. You have walked through these exams so quietly that you did not realize you had passed them. You were not given an immediate reward, no applause, no congratulations, no spotlight shining on you. But look deeper into that. When nothing outside you affirms you, the truth inside you becomes the reward. Your stability is the reward. The peace you hold while chaos swirls around you is the reward. Your growth does not arrive with a loud explosion. It arrives through quiet choices, boundaries you set for yourself, and the times you chose the harder road because it was the truer one. Have you ever looked back and realized you changed without knowing when the change began? Have you ever felt out of sync with conversations, habits, or environments you used to feel deeply connected to, and you did not understand why? If that has ever happened, it is the clearest sign that you have passed the silent exam of the field, because only those who have moved through that invisible purification can sense the gentle but profound shift, the separation from the old without violence, the departure without bitterness. The field never abandons anyone, but it also never opens new layers of awareness to those who are not honest with themselves. If you are reading these lines, it means your frequency no longer aligns with the old operating layers, not because you are better than anyone, but because you have walked far enough that you cannot return. And that is why this silent exam appears. It does not come to hurt you. It comes to see whether you can hold your essence in the hurt. It does not come to take things away. It comes to see whether you dare to trust your inner truth when nothing outside validates you. It does not come to test your strength. It comes to check the purity of your vibration in moments when you are at your weakest. You have passed, not through effort, but through unconscious steadiness, through continuously choosing the light even when you had no clear reason to do so, through choosing understanding instead of reacting, through refusing to let fear drag you back into lower versions of yourself, through continuing to move forward even when you were unsure of what awaited you. All of this forms a vibrational map. The field reads more clearly than you read yourself. And if something deep within you is stirring as you read this, leave a brief comment saying "I am ready" or simply the number 1. Not to boost engagement, but to give yourself a moment of self-acknowledgement that you have entered the next phase. I want to know you are here. I want to know you are still walking this path. And your presence means more than you think to those of us who create content like this. Because your presence shows not only that you are here, but that you have chosen to change now rather than later. Thank you for being here and for proving that silent exams are never meaningless. The field has seen you, and so have I. There is a moment that anyone stepping into a true shift of consciousness must go through, even though no one teaches it to you, no one warns you, and no clear sign exists for you to name it, but you feel it. You feel it more clearly than the mind can explain. It is the moment your frequency detaches from its familiar vibration and touches an entirely new layer. Not loud, not forceful, not radiant, but so deep that everything you once believed was stable suddenly becomes loose. What you once understood becomes shallow. The relationships you once clung to feel as light as thread. Every old excitement dissolves, leaving behind a strange feeling that is both empty and wide open. You are not collapsing, nor are you thrilled. You simply no longer resemble the self you were before. This is the frequency shift, the subtlest yet strongest sign that you have stepped into a new vibrational layer. This shift never begins with outward change. It always begins with a small deviation in the way you perceive reality. Things that once stimulated you no longer make you resonate. Things that used to upset you no longer have the power to pull you down. People who used to keep you looping inside old wounds no longer affect you in the same way. You think you have grown numb, but you are actually stabilizing your vibration at a purer level. When frequency rises, old emotions lose their authority. When vibration shifts, old motivations cannot find an anchor. You are not becoming cold, you are becoming clear. This is not detachment, this is refinement. Another important sign is that your discernment becomes sharper without effort. You sense more quickly what aligns with you and what does not. A small sentence can make you rise or sink, but in a very clear way, no longer vague like before. You no longer stand at the edge of two choices. You feel the correct direction as if it lights up by itself. Not because you have become smarter, but because your frequency has stepped out of the noise. When your vibration shifts, everything that does not belong to you becomes heavy, and everything that matches becomes light. You are not choosing, you are recognizing. This is why your old habits no longer hold their pull. You are no longer interested in shallow conversations, no longer trying to prove anything to anyone, no longer chasing what once fascinated you. When a new vibrational layer forms, your entire energetic system automatically prioritizes the path with the highest coherence. What does not fit will fall out of your field, sometimes softly, sometimes painfully, but you can clearly feel that either way, you no longer belong to it. The new vibrational layer always brings a strange silence. Not the silence of loneliness, but the silence of reconstruction. In this silence, you no longer want to share too much. You no longer feel the urge to tell everything to someone. You feel as if you are stepping through a door only you can see. No need for validation, no need for company, no need for someone to understand. A new vibrational layer always begins with a gentle inward retreat, so the old energetic layers can be removed, the new ones placed in, and the new sense of orientation can emerge in stillness. The frequency shift also makes you highly sensitive to anything untrue within yourself. You can no longer pretend to be fine when you are not. No longer maintain a relationship just because it is familiar. No longer force yourself to continue a job that has drained you. The new frequency cannot tolerate inauthenticity, even the smallest kind. Your body will react immediately. Disturbance, heaviness, fatigue, restlessness. These are not negative emotions. They are indicators that your new frequency is signaling what no longer aligns with you. Once the frequency shift occurs, you also begin to perceive the signals of the field with greater clarity, not with your eyes, not with your ears, but with a feeling just beneath the layer of consciousness. A form of intuition with a precision far sharper than before. You sense when to stop, when to wait, when to move, when to turn, with no logical explanation, yet with an accuracy you cannot deny. This is the guidance system of the new frequency, operating at a level the mind has not yet caught up to. There is another phenomenon you will notice. People who once aligned with you begin to drift away, not because they have become worse, not because you have become better, but because two frequencies have stepped out of sync. When your vibration rises, those who do not match the new frequency will naturally drift out of your orbit. You do not have to do anything. No cutting off, no holding on. When frequency shifts, everything rearranges itself. It is not easy, but it is precise. Because the field always prioritizes vibrational stability over emotional familiarity, the new vibrational layer also brings in a transparency. You are no longer vague about your feelings, no longer willing to endure something to the point of losing yourself. You know your limits. You understand the value of your being. This is not arrogance, this is accuracy. When vibration is clean, you no longer lower your frequency to please anyone. You do not need to explain your choices. You do not need to seek agreement. You live according to the natural direction of your vibration, and that is the deepest form of freedom. The clearest sign of a frequency shift is the feeling that you cannot return to your old vibrational layer, no matter how you try. Things that once hurt you no longer break you. Things that once excited, you no longer have the force to pull you in. You leave the old layer not because you are bored of it, but because you have surpassed it. And once you have surpassed it, the old door closes behind you without making a sound. You only realize it has closed when you notice you no longer fit inside it. The new frequency does not require you to be perfect. It requires you to be honest. Honest with your feelings, honest with your needs, honest with what you know deep within yourself. When you are honest, your vibration stabilizes. And when your vibration stabilizes, the field begins to rearrange reality according to the frequency you carry. It is not you forcing change. It is change finding you because your frequency has become the point of attraction. Stepping into the frequency shift, you will realize the real transformation never comes from trying to become someone else. It comes from no longer being able to remain the old version of yourself. When the old no longer fits, the new begins to emerge through a slight change in the way you experience life. You are in that exact moment, the intersection of two vibrations, the point where everything around you seems unclear, but everything inside you is profoundly transparent. You are not lost, you are rising. The field has recalibrated your frequency, and you have just touched a vibrational layer you once felt only in brief flashes. This time, it is no longer a flash. It is becoming your new foundation. The change you are feeling is not only happening inside you, it is happening around you in a structure so subtle that if you are not quiet enough, you will miss it entirely. The field never restructures reality in a loud way. It does not pull you off your old path through storms. It adjusts the entire quantum architecture around you through movements so small that you might think you are imagining them, but nothing in these recent days is random. Not the unusual encounters, not the shift in how people behave towards you, not the doors that close abruptly or the opportunities that open at strange speed. All of it is the effect of a coherent field forming around you, a frequency synchronized field responding precisely to your new vibration. You recognize this first through small but sharp synchronicities. A fleeting thought gets reflected instantly in your external experience. An intention you have not spoken out loud is supported by a situation arriving at the perfect moment. A door you never searched for opens exactly when needed, as if someone calculated the timing with precision. When the field stabilizes, reality responds to you like a system programmed to detect your frequency, not because you control it, but because you have become aligned with its inner structure. Reality does not reflect what you say. It reflects the frequency you carry. The coherent field functions like an invisible information network, constantly updating your vibrational state in real time. When you maintain purity in emotion and thought, this network begins to rearrange the probabilities around you, eliminating flows that no longer match and expanding those aligned with higher frequency. This is not magic. It is the natural consequence of resonance. The more stable the frequency, the more reality must reorganize to maintain coherence. When you change, the quantum architecture around you must change with you. An important sign of the coherent field is the sudden accuracy of timing. You arrive at the right place at the right moment without calculation. You receive information exactly when needed without effort. You avoid negative situations so quietly that no one knows what you just sidestepped. When your frequency stabilizes, the field begins to adjust your timeline toward the path of least friction. It removes the roads that would misalign you. It pulls you away from incompatible connections. It clears subtle distortions you never realized you've been living with for years. The quantum structure does not rearrange itself by changing everything overnight. It adjusts through intentional micro-collisions. Someone who once hurt you gradually distances themselves. A job that has expired becomes increasingly hard to maintain. A familiar relationship suddenly no longer fits. A new door opens where you had no plan to go. All of these share one thing. They bring you back to the vibrational direction you now belong to. The field does not care about familiarity. It cares about alignment. You will begin noticing situations almost reorganizing themselves to remove you from places you no longer belong. Conversations that once wounded you lose their power. Attachments that once held you feel so light that letting go requires no effort. This is how the field ensures you do not slip out of your new vibrational layer. It removes low-frequency pulls, disruptive influences, old structures that could drag you back down. Quantum restructuring is the process through which the field holds you in coherence by reshaping reality to support you. What few people realize is that when the coherent field forms, the space around you changes in a very real sense. You feel lighter in environments that match you and heavier in those that no longer align. You sense the energy of a room clearly before speaking to anyone in it. You enter a space and instantly know which areas suit you and which do not. Your field has become stable enough to act as an actual information reading device, not vague intuition, a vibrational analysis system operating with precision and sharpness. When your frequency reaches a certain clarity, you also begin attracting people who operate on a similar vibrational layer, not because you try to connect, but because matching frequencies always find each other. Your new encounters will feel as if you have known them for a long time. Your conversations will open layers of meaning you could not access before. Every interaction becomes deep, slow, clear, and information-rich. The coherent field does not only rearrange physical reality, it rearranges relational reality to ensure you receive the right support. The strangest part of this phase is that everything around you begins to feel like it has its own internal logic, even if from the outside it looks completely unreasonable. A sudden departure, an unexpected ending, an opportunity arriving before you feel ready, all of it is more precise than you think. The field does not use linear logic, it uses frequency logic. And when your vibration is stable, events arrange themselves in the exact sequence needed for your evolution. Not early, not late, always on time. The most important point you must recognize is that you are not doing any of this through force. You are not bending reality. You are not manipulating anything. You stabilize your vibration, and the field restructures the rest. When you maintain purity of intention and emotion, your entire reality begins to mirror that through its own self-adjustment. This is why people entering the coherent field feel life becoming lighter, even though they have not reduced their effort. They are simply no longer being dragged by unnecessary disturbances. You are standing in the middle of this restructuring. Every quiet change you have noticed recently is proof. None of these shifts are meaningless. Nothing is working against you. Everything is rearranging to match you. When reality becomes clearer, more seamless, more coherent, it is not luck, it is coherence. It is the precision of the field when your frequency has become clean enough for it to operate fully around you. This is the moment you no longer merge into reality. This is the moment reality begins to merge into you. There is a stage in the awakening journey that no one prepares you for, a stage with no ceremony, no declaration, no moment of bright revelation for you to point to and say that everything has changed. But deep inside, you know clearly that a part of you has disappeared, not lost in a painful way, but dissolved like the final breath of a version that carried you for many years. The old self does not collapse in tears or screams. It leaves you with the silence of a door closing so gently that if you are not perceptive enough, you will not know when it's shut. You notice this first when familiar reactions no longer appear. Things that used to ignite you now touch you and fall away. Stories that once kept you awake at night no longer carry weight. Emotions that once pulled you into spirals now pass by like a breeze. You are not becoming cold. You are not becoming numb. Your old self, the ego that used to react to everything as if its survival depended on it, is no longer in the driver's seat. It has dissolved, and it dissolves so quietly that you must look twice to realize you are no longer the version you once were. The rebirth of the observer begins when you no longer identify yourself with the noise inside. When emotions rise, you see them, but you are not consumed by them. When fear appears, you hear what it says, but you do not let it decide for you. When old, painful memories surface, you neither chase them nor resist them. You remain still, watching everything, and you realize you are none of those things. The observer within you, the purest layer of awareness, begins to sit in the place the ego once occupied. This is the point where many people believe they are losing direction, but you are actually stepping into a dimension of awareness where everything that used to be central suddenly becomes small. You no longer live by reaction. You are living by choice. You are no longer the victim of the mind. You are becoming the reader of the mind. This does not arrive through force. It arrives because you have ridden enough spirals to understand that the ego is not your protector. It is simply a survival structure that has completed its task. There will be moments when you feel strangely empty. Not the emptiness of loss, but the emptiness of having nothing to cling to anymore. Things that used to define you can no longer define you. Roles, relationships, personal history, the stories you once told about yourself all become too small for what you are becoming. When the old self dissolves, you do not lose identity. You reclaim it. You do not become weaker. You become lighter. No longer carrying layers of defense, old expectations, worn-out fears. You begin living from a clearer layer where choices arise not from lack but from awareness. A strong sign of the observer's rebirth is that you begin seeing everything as if there is a thin distance between you and the world, not a distance of detachment but a distance of awareness. You are no longer pulled into battles that do not belong to you. You are no longer triggered by things that used to hit the exact wound. You see the whole picture instead of only the part that hurt. This does not make you emotionless. It frees you from being controlled by emotion. You feel fully, but you are not driven by feelings. You think clearly, but you are not overpowered by the mind. You are more present, but less entangled. When the observer is reborn, you also begin to see clearly the old loops that once held you underwater. Not to blame yourself, not to erase the past, but to understand that you have stepped out of them. You see the unconscious patterns that made you repeat old mistakes. You recognize the decisions you made from fear instead of truth. You see the difference between want and need, between desire and true resonance. This awareness does not judge you, it frees you. The dissolution of the old self is also when you realize that the silence within you is no longer frightening. In the past, silence made you uneasy because it forced you to face things you did not want to see. But now silence becomes the place you return to recharge. It is no longer a dark space, it is a bright one. The observer needs silence to see, and you are learning to see life from a deeper vantage point, where there is no panic of the ego, no turbulence of the old self, only the transparency of awareness. Another subtle shift occurs. You begin to feel relief when you no longer have to protect yourself from things that are unnecessary. The old self reacted excessively to survive. The observer does not react. The observer chooses. And when you live from this place, everything changes. The words you choose are light but powerful. The boundaries you set are soft but clear. Your departures carry no anger. Your presence carries no fear. You no longer try to prove your worth, you are embodying it. The rebirth of the observer has no moment of announcement. No one gives you a medal. No lightning strikes the sky to mark your ascension. It happens in the smallest shifts in how you see yourself and the world. You become less hurried, less attached, less invested in holding yourself up through force. You become wider, deeper, quieter, and in that quietness you see everything moving differently. The old self dissolves without noise. It dissolves because you no longer need it. You are not losing yourself. You are reclaiming the part of you you lost long ago. The observer within you is awakening, and as it awakens, your entire life begins to operate under a new logic. The logic of frequency, not reaction. The logic of awareness, not ego. The logic of inner truth, not out of fear. This is the rebirth that requires no funeral, because nothing has died. Only a layer that has completed its purpose has gently stepped aside so you can become the version you were always capable of becoming. The authority to navigate always appears in those who have traveled far enough on the path of awareness to understand that they are no longer being pulled by unconscious currents. It is unlike any form of power you were ever taught. Not the power of control, not the power of possession, not the power of manipulation. The authority to navigate is the ability to sense and choose the timeline that aligns with you before it crystallizes into physical form. It is a natural power of a consciousness that has become quiet enough to see the quantum structure of reality moving beneath every choice. When you begin operating at this frequency, you realize that time is no longer linear. It looks like a band of infinite directions. each holding a different version of you. There is no fixed future, only possibilities waiting for your signal, and what determines your path is not desire but the clarity of the frequency you emit. You navigate timelines not through effort but through the level of inner clarity you can maintain in each moment of awareness. The first feeling you notice when timeline authority becomes clear is the change in the way you make decisions. Things that once confused you now take only seconds for you to sense the correct path. Not correct according to logic, but correct according to expansion. You feel which direction is lighter, which direction is more open, which direction carries stillness. This is not intuition. This is data. Data from the field reflecting your inner signal. When you touch the right frequency, all corresponding possibilities light up instantly like a luminous map from within. This is also the stage where you realize not every opportunity is meant for you, not every invitation is aligned, not every open door is a door you should walk through. When awareness becomes strong enough to navigate, you see clearly that some things appear only to test whether you will return to old loops. Some relationships arrive to test whether you have released the habit of saving others. Some jobs or projects appear to see whether you are still operating from fear of scarcity. Timeline authority teaches you that not every bright timeline is your timeline. What you choose is what shapes reality. When this authority rises, you also begin to notice an interesting phenomenon. Misaligned timelines, unsuitable possibilities, automatically fall out of your field. You are no longer pulled into choices that drain you, no longer drawn into old scenarios, no longer repeating lessons you have already mastered. The world around you may remain chaotic, but misaligned possibilities slide out of your life as if reality understands you are no longer available for them. This is the sign of a quantum system recalibrating itself to your stable frequency. What makes timeline authority powerful is not which direction you choose, but the place you choose it from. When you choose from fear, the timeline contracts. When you choose from lack, the timeline distorts. When you choose from expectation, the timeline becomes heavy and slow. But when you choose from clarity, from inner truth, from the steadiness of the reborn observer, the timeline opens effortlessly as if the universe itself is stepping aside for you. Everything becomes smooth, not because it is easy, but because it is right. There will be moments when you stand before many bright directions at once, not because you are being tested, but because you have become expansive enough to touch multiple possibilities simultaneously. But then only one direction holds stillness within you. Only one direction steadies your heartbeat. Only one direction makes you feel as if you are stepping into the most aligned stream for your expansion. When you choose that direction, you are not choosing an outcome. You are choosing a new version of yourself. Timeline authority also carries a new form of responsibility, not heavy, not burdensome, but the responsibility of knowing that each choice you make does not only shape your reality, but also sends a signal into the collective architecture of the field. One clear choice from you creates a luminous path for those walking behind you. One distorted choice can pull you into a timeline your soul no longer wants. But when you are stable at this frequency, you begin to notice that distortion rarely happens anymore, because the old mind no longer has enough influence over your new perceptual field. There is a subtle moment that everyone who gains timeline authority experiences, a moment when you look around your life and realize that everything, from encounters to opportunities, from synchronicities to subtle signs, shares the same underlying coherence. As if reality is being programmed by the signals you emit each day. You no longer doubt it. You feel it like a pulse under the surface. And here is where the most important shift occurs. You no longer choose timelines through desire. You choose through the precision of your inner frequency. Before moving deeper into this layer, I want to ask you something very small but very important. Are you still here with me? If you are, leave a like, not to increase numbers, but so I can feel your energy still present, actively receiving each layer of this awareness. That small sign means more to me than you think, because it shows you are not just listening, you are participating. Thank you so much for that. Back to the timeline. When timeline authority becomes instinct, you no longer see life as a chain of events. You see it as a stream of energy you can read. You begin adjusting yourself before adjusting circumstances. You begin changing your frequency before changing your actions. You begin sensing misalignment before mistakes occur. And this creates zero delay between awareness and reality. Others will say you are lucky, but you know the truth. You are not lucky. You are precise. Timeline authority is not a privilege. It is the natural state of a consciousness clear enough to no longer chase the noise of the mind. It is like moving through a river where every small movement you make influences the entire flow. When you hold stillness, the flow adjusts itself. When you hold clarity, the flow opens the way. When you hold truth, the flow never takes you into dead ends. This is a power no one can give you and no one can take away. It appears only when you become coherent with yourself. The beautiful thing is that at this layer, you no longer see choices as burdens. You see them as art. Each decision is a brushstroke, each direction a luminous line on the quantum map. And you realize you are no longer afraid of being wrong, because you understand you cannot be wrong when you choose from stillness and truth. The timeline is not a test. It is a space where you express the clarity of your soul. This is the timeline authority, the power you have had all along but were never taught. And now, as you read these lines, you are beginning to remember it. Reality is opening before you, not for you to chase, but for you to guide through the frequency you are carrying. Integration never arrives with the radiance people expect. It does not begin with mystical signs, does not cover you in supernatural moments, and does not give you a prolonged sense of elevation the way stories often describe. True integration begins quietly when the light within you starts to flow outward without effort, without force, without display. It moves like a subtle wave traveling through each layer of reality, adjusting everything according to the purity of the energetic field you have become. The moment you hold your peace, even inside a difficult conversation, the moment you sense truth in someone without being governed by reactivity, the moment you stand inside a situation that could pull you into chaos, but your body remains steady as if surrounded by a layer of light, these moments are not discipline, they are integration. They are the inner light beginning to move across the surface, reshaping the way you perceive, respond, show up, and influence. When integration happens, your stillness no longer feels like an effort. It becomes a baseline, not something you have to create when needed, something that is already there. It appears before thought has time to form. It does not wait for you to control it. It self-adjusts. The light within you functions like a living system. Every breath carries a signal. Every glance carries a layer of calm. Every action carries an energy field that others can feel, even if they do not understand where it comes from. When the light begins expanding into the field, the first thing you notice is not that the world changes. The first thing is that the way the world responds to you changes. People who once exhausted you suddenly become easier to understand. Situations that once triggered intense reactions feel softer. Problems that once required fighting now open gently. This is not magic in the usual sense. It is the physical response of the field when it meets a stable source of light. Light does not try, yet everything responds. At this layer, you also feel something interesting. Things that used to stress you no longer find a grip within you, not because they disappear, but because your internal structure has changed. The emotional hooks that once pulled you downward no longer have anything to catch. The loops that once dragged you back into old versions can no longer lock you in. You become smooth in the way light is smooth. Nothing holds you because you no longer match the frequency of those things. This is how the field knows that you have integrated, not just understood. Another unmistakable sign is the sense of deeper presence. You no longer view life from a distance like a separate observer. You begin to feel like you are part of every movement. When you speak, you feel each word land in the field, its influence expanding outward. When you are silent, you realize silence is also a form of transmission. When you walk into a room, the space shifts slightly without you doing anything. This is not power, this is resonance. The field adjusts to the most stable frequency in the space. And in this moment, that frequency is you. Throughout this process, another truth becomes clear. You no longer try to express yourself. No need to prove you understand. No need to show anyone you have changed. True light never needs to declare itself. It reveals itself. It expands on its own. You simply exist, and everything is already transmitted. People around you feel more at ease. Those who are lost see more clearly when speaking with you, not because you teach them anything, but because the light you have integrated creates a space for them to see themselves. Integration also changes how you understand purpose. You once believed purpose was something large to pursue or achieve. But when the inner light begins to expand into the field, you realize purpose is not a destination. It is the way you exist in every moment. Every gesture made from stillness is purpose. Every time you hold your truth is purpose. Every small, clear action is a form of service to the field. Purpose stops being a question. It becomes a rhythm. At this layer, you see something deeper. Light does not expand through words or willpower. It expands through consistency, through living what you know, through refusing to betray your heart for anything. Light reaches as far as the degree to which you hold your truth in every situation, even the smallest ones. When you no longer waver because of external conditions, you become an anchor for others. When you are no longer driven by unconscious emotion, you become a pillar of light in the space, and you do not need to recognize this. The field recognizes it. As the light expands, you feel lighter but not fragile, more stable but not controlling, softer but not weak. This is a balance you could never access before. You are strong without proving, deep without needing acknowledgement, bright without overwhelming anyone. Healthy light never creates intimidation. It creates safety. It makes others want to open instead of retreat. One of the clearest signs of integration is that you no longer seek signs from the field, not because you do not need them, but because you have become the sign. You no longer ask whether you are on the right path. Your stillness is the answer. You no longer wait for synchronicity to confirm. Your clarity is the confirmation. You no longer search for miracles. The way you operate is already a miracle. You no longer need to assert your value. Your value radiates into the field with every breath. The moment you realize this is the moment the light within you no longer remains confined within personal boundaries. It becomes a new format of awareness, a way of being that requires no effort, a state you carry without needing protection, an infinite resource that requires no proof. This is integration. This is the process of the inner light expanding and reshaping everything around you into a structure that is calm, deep, and stable. When the field responds to you with soft movements, when life becomes synchronous in ways that defy logic, when your footsteps feel as if they are landing on the foundation of a new world, this is not luck. This is you experiencing reality as it reflects a fully integrated energy field. You are no longer walking in the shadow of your old version. You are bringing light into every layer of existence simply by showing up as you are. This is your expansion. This is your merging with the field. And From here on, each day is no longer a journey to find the light. Each day is the moment you become the light. The final alignment is not the moment you see a mystical sign or hear a whisper from the universe. It happens in very small, very quiet moments when you realize that no one can choose for you anymore. No one can decide which version of yourself you will become. No one can lead you into a timeline you are not willing to step into. This is when truth becomes clear as light. You live inside a field of reality that can shift with each beat of awareness, and you are the one who chooses. The call to step into the reality you want to live does not come from outside. It rises from within as an undeniable certainty. It is not loud, but it is so deep you cannot overlook it. You feel it in the way you grow tired of old things faster than before. You feel it in the way you lose patience with repeating patterns. You feel it in the way your body reacts when you try to force yourself back into loops that have already closed. The body always knows before awareness. When you no longer belong to a layer of reality, every system within you begins to refuse to stay. This call appears at the exact moment your inner light has been integrated long enough to form a natural guiding force. It does not pull you. It opens the path, and you only need to walk. No fighting, no pushing yourself, no pretending to be strong. When alignment is sufficient, the right timeline rises naturally like an obvious choice. It feels light in the body, clear in the mind, steady in the emotions. It feels like a door already open, waiting for you to walk through, not by effort but by acceptance. The call to choose the reality you want always comes with one essential question. Do you have the courage to leave behind things that once helped you survive but no longer help you live true? This is not a question of the mind. It is a question of the soul. Because the new reality cannot receive you if you are still clinging to an old identity, like a shirt that has become too small. To enter the final alignment, you must accept that what is leaving is not punishing you, but simply no longer allowed to block your path. At this layer, you begin to see that choice never lies in the outcome. It lies in the version of yourself you decide to become. You are not choosing a goal, you are choosing a frequency, and that frequency will naturally pull in all corresponding events. This is why those who reach the final alignment often say that everything comes to them effortlessly, not because they are lucky, not because they are special, but because they choose from inner truth rather than old wounds. In this decisive stage, you will see something very clearly. Reality responds faster. Small misalignments create large disturbances. Small truths create powerful expansion. You are living in a level of field sensitivity you could not perceive before. When you say something untrue to your nature, the body tightens immediately. When you step into an unsuitable direction, your energy contracts. When you touch truth, everything opens. This is how the field guides you at the final layer. Not through signs, through instant feedback. This final call is also the first time you feel that no one is coming to save you. No one is leading you the way they once did. No one is giving you the answers. And that does not frighten you. It makes you lighter, because you realize you are finally mature enough to navigate on your own. This is the freedom you never had before. Freedom is not doing anything you want. Freedom is knowing what is true for you and daring to live by it. When you choose the reality you want to live, everything around you begins to restructure. The right people arrive on their own. Those who no longer match drift away. The correct opportunities appear without effort. The misaligned paths disappear without resistance. Reality becomes a perfect mirror reflecting exactly the frequency you carry. When you change internally in a true way, the field cannot help but shift accordingly. The moment you read these lines may already be that call, not my call, your call. The call of the awareness layer you have stepped into. No need to complicate anything, no need to overthink. There is only one final question. Will you choose the reality aligned with your soul or continue living in the reality aligned with your old habits? One expands you, one keeps you still. Final alignment does not come once. It comes the moment you decide to stop delaying your true self for even one more day. And if you feel something in your chest opening as you read this, then you already know the answer. Your time to choose has arrived. And this time you choose from truth, not from fear, not from lack, not from old wounds. You choose from light. You choose from clarity. You choose from your own frequency. And reality will respond accordingly, as it always does for those who step into the final alignment.